We have a schedule for the Colts in 2023. That'll be the bulk of today's Kevin's Corner. Welcome back. Kevin Bowen and Eddie Garrison with you here. I'm a big fan of the schedule release, Eddie. Always a fan of it. Nice to put dates and times, and I guess, honestly, just tell your friends and family Sundays at 1 o'clock. That's pretty much the name of the game here with this schedule. But we'll go over it today, some takeaways from it. Twitter questions as well. As we lead off this pop quiz, we just had a little bit of breaking news, I guess, before the quiz started. That would be Matt Ryan in the broadcast booth coming up for CBS Sports as an analyst. He did say in his post, though, it is not a retirement post. I can't think of too many people that have gone into the booth and then gotten out of the booth and become a player again. So I guess I'll believe that when I see it. But Eddie, like we kind of thought would happen this entire offseason, Matt Ryan will wait for the Colts to cut him because he wants some of that money. Mm-hmm. And so, as you said, the Colts are going to pay him to broadcast potentially one of their games.
Yep, that's why I told you before we started the pod. And one of the best things I like about schedule release and everything that comes with it are the ways that the teams announce their schedules.
Oh, how about the Titans?
I wasn't that big on it. Like,
oh, really? I was dying.
See, like after the fourth or fifth team, I'm like, okay, this is old. Like,
yeah, boy, that's get off my lawn.
I know.
Eddie Garrison.
Yeah, I just don't like that for like an extended period of time.
Chargers was really good. Again, I am a fan of someone that has been to Broadway and seen the scene that can be there. Boy, it had me laughing at the Titans one quite a bit. I thought the Colts did a really nice job, creative with the food and Grover Stewart and DeForest Buckner. So I know it is a big deal for those NFL social media teams, and certainly some teams have more money than others or more connections than others. I guess you could put that in there.
Did you see Jacksonville's?
As well. I did not. That was one, though, I saw. It got some nice
So they did an 8-minute like office type of video, I want to say, where it's like behind the scenes, and like they had this guy be like the head writer who was writing the script for every game of the Jaguars to kind of play off of the narrative last year that the NFL was scripted.
Got it.
So they do like this inside thing on with all the players involved. They're like, oh, these guys are not players; they're actors playing as players. So Marvin Jones is an actor playing as Marvin Jones, et cetera, et cetera.
Got it. That's interesting. I like the Jets one. They had like the map dude who's like crazy with the maps.
I didn't see that one.
Immediately plug in exactly where their various games were. So a lot to get to on today's pod. Again, pretty much schedule related. As far as the Colts, we are in, I'm pretty sure, Eddie, it's the last week of phase 2. Rookies back in the building. So it's the first time, I guess, rookies and vets together. And then starting next week is when we'll get into OTAs. If I'm not mistaken, it's 3 OTA sessions next week, 3 the following week, 4 that first week of June, the first full week of June, and then that 3-day minicamp, the 12th, 13th, and 14th. 13th, 14th, and 15th as I look at the calendar. I believe, I guess the OTA starting next week. I mean, that's your first 11-on-11 session of the offseason. Again, no full pads, but you'll get 10 of those sessions plus the 3-day minicamp. So starting next week, over that 4-week period, you'll have 13 different practices from an 11-on-11 standpoint for the Colts here, and obviously the rookies blend in with the veterans for all of that. So the offseason program really picks up. Now with the rookies and vets in the building for a week, and then you get onto the on-field stuff, our media availability typically has just been 1 day a week. The minicamp, I think we get to watch the whole thing. So we'll probably cater the podcast more to recapping whatever that OTA is that given week. So for next week, I would expect something mid to late week from a podcast standpoint.
Sounds good. We got Josh Downs coming up, right?
We do. Thank you for that. Josh Downs, that interview we will play on this podcast coming up here in a little bit. We had him on the Friday morning of rookie minicamp, so it's a little bit delayed, but that was the first time I think he had told anybody about threw with Anthony Richardson last night in the parking lot. I will be honest, I didn't realize it would blow up to the magnitude that it blew up. But the Downs personality, I think you like. You know, when you're a smaller wideout, you got to have a little bit of And wideouts in general, they don't need
I was about to say wide receivers, yeah.
any sort of kind of public persona injection into them. But Downs definitely has some of that. It comes from a family of NFLers. His uncle's Trey Bly. His father played in the league. So big fan of his, and was really impressed by what he then showed later that day at rookie minicamp there. So
You ready to dive into the schedule?
I am. Yes, I am.
All right, so in preseason, I'm just kidding. We won't go there.
Well, I if you don't mind, can we start with the preseason?
Oh, yeah, they do have a primetime game in there.
That's the prime timer, baby. Thursday night. What is it? The 24th.
Yeah, it's Olivia's birthday.
Look, well, Olivia, sorry, we're gonna have to postpone things to Friday the 25th.
I don't know if she'll be happy with that.
That's your prime video against the Eagles in Philly. I do think it's interesting to look at the preseason schedule for a couple of reasons. One, you get a little bit of a gauge on when training camp could start. Typically, the CBA, I think, has said 15 days before your first preseason game. So the first preseason game is at Buffalo. Weren't they at Buffalo last year for the preseason? Or was that 2 years ago?
I felt like it was always Cincinnati in there, too.
Oh, Cincy was usually that final game. So August 12th is their first preseason game.
Yes, at Buffalo last year.
So if you go back 15 days from that, Eddie, look for July 26th, 27th, report day, first practice, kind of right in there if you're trying to get a little bit of a Grand Park schedule. And then week 2, their only home preseason game is August 19th. That's a Saturday night at 7 o'clock. And based off some of the reporting from the Chicago crew, it looks like the Colts are going to welcome the Chicago Bears here for joint practices. Now, obviously, you have the Matt Eberflus connection. Ryan Pace and Chris Ballard both worked in Kansas City. A lot of this checks. I mean, it was all kind of the connections of the Colts possibly trading up for the number 1 pick. I think it'll be fun to watch Justin Fields. You know, I mean, it's a nice, young QB that obviously has some connections here, Big Ten-wise and potentially draft-wise. If I were to guess, and again, I'm guessing with this, the 19th is a Saturday. That's your preseason game with the Bears. So that Wednesday, Thursday would be your joint practices. Friday, you don't practice before a game. So I would say the 16th and 17th would be the days at Grand Park for that. Again, this is me just kind of going off of past history with this, but looks like joint practices will continue. And boy, kudos to the Colts for having Grand Park, man.
Right.
They host teams every year there.
Mm-hmm.
They never go off-site for their training camp joint sessions there. So Panthers and Ravens and Browns and Lions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So that's what the preseason schedule looks like. So I guess, Eddie, I know you weren't trying to do that, a little bit tongue-in-cheek to do that. But
yeah.
I do think there is a little bit of news item with that schedule.
Think there's any chance that they could also do joint practices with the Eagles?
So I thought about that. The issue there is how close those two games are together. I guess you could do like a Monday, Tuesday joint practice, but it's a Thursday night game.
That's true.
Now, I am interested, too, when you think this, Eddie. You play Saturday the 19th, right?
Yeah.
And then you come around and you play Thursday the 24th. So those are 2 games in 5 days. Would you have hesitancy to how much you play your starters in 1 or 2 of those games? How do you treat Anthony Richardson in the preseason? How do you treat him if he's your week 1 starter? I mean, there's a lot of questions with the Colts here preseason related. Since they've changed this preseason schedule from 4 to 3 games, I've always been a big fan of treating the week 3 preseason game as a major dress rehearsal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't view that like final preseason game means final dress rehearsal final opportunity for the back end of the roster guys. I don't have that line of thinking. You play what? The 24th of August?
And then this September 10th, so you've got like 2 weeks.
More than 2 weeks.
2.5, yeah.
I mean, 2.5 weeks before you play an actual football game there. So I'm good with playing your starters a bit more in that game. So those are kind of my thoughts on it. Okay, so should we just go a little kind of takeaways generally through the schedule?
Yeah. The one note I was going to say is in regards to your question about starters playing time, I would expect you probably do as well. Less starters playing against the Bears since they have the joint practices earlier in the week.
That would be my assumption. That's typically how those things unfold. Now, again, it's a new head coach in town. It's not awkward, but it's an unusual quarterback situation. So how you handle all of that will obviously be something to continue to monitor.
All right, first storyline that we probably should hit on. No primetime games.
Yeah, 1 of 4, right? Falcons, Cardinals, and Texans. I'm not totally stunned. I thought they could maybe squeeze into a Thursday nighter.
I thought that Carolina game would be a Thursday nighter for sure.
Yeah.
Frank Reich versus his old team.
And that is the 4 o'clocker that they have all season. So obviously it's viewed in some sort of a TV. That game does kind of matter to us. It's a 4:05. So that game in London, you're only non 1 o'clockers. London, Frankfurt. I guess we haven't talked about the game in Germany. Let's talk about that maybe at the end.
Okay.
Of schedule thoughts. You know, Eddie, when I saw the no prime time first, I thought this is the NFL decision makers within Amazon saying you're grounded. You made our audience watch you guys play the Broncos, so you're grounded. Now I know the Broncos are on TV a lot more national prime time than the Colts are, but you know, I think there's an element of you have to earn it. I mean, Eddie, I have been on this podcast several times, several years in a row, post-schedule release, and I think rightfully so, carried the Colts water for this is absolute bull that they do not have more home primetime games. I've thought it's been such a joke that the NFL has ignored them over the years, because this dates back to like 2015, 2016 Andrew Luck years, where they haven't been slotted for the prime home games. And it was such just an anomaly based off the rest of the NFL, how they were treated. I get it. I mean, throwing them into the Texans, Cardinals, Falcons, the Commanders got one. That's kind of the group the Colts are in right now, especially because you have the awkward quarterback situation. You know, C.J. Stroud's probably more of a slam dunk to start 17 games than Richardson is. So I understand it from that standpoint. I absolutely love the opener. I absolutely love it. It's home to Jacksonville, and I love it for several reasons. One, no one will give you a chance to win that game. Two, the day a Jacksonville fan shows up to a road NFL game will be the first time ever that the Jaguars fan base has been, passionate enough to show up to a road game. So it's not like you're going to have road fans in there. You have the natural energy of just the opener. There's always that energy, particularly I think when you have a new head coach and maybe a rookie starter or quarterback.
And at home.
And maybe this is me thinking too deep into it, Eddie, but the fact that you have Jim Bob Cooter, who just came from Jacksonville, I think is even more reason to play Anthony Richardson early. I mean, he's going to know Jacksonville really, really well, and I think he could prepare Richardson well for that sort of opener and what Jacksonville does, because, certainly Jacksonville's got a good defense. So for all those reasons, I am a huge, huge fan of it. Yes, 9 straight seasons without winning an opener. We know all the stats and all of that, and funky things happen in openers. I mean, look at what Minshew did to you a few years ago. That was the only game Jacksonville won all year, right? That 1-15 season for the Jags.
Mm-hmm.
So this, to me, just kind of further emphasizes why I would like to see Anthony Richardson in Week 1. So I like the opener. Again, it's very front-loaded from an AFC South standpoint. 4 of your first 6?
Yep.
2 in a row to start the year at Houston there in Week 2.
It's just fascinating how they scheduled like the rest of the teams in the AFC South, because like if you look at Tennessee's, for example, the only AFC South matchup they have in the first 9 weeks of the schedule is against the Colts.
Interesting. I hadn't looked that deep into it. I thought they were supposed to kind of backload more divisional games.
I thought they were too.
I think this is one of the easiest road schedules I've ever seen. You have 9 at home, obviously. You were supposed to have 8 on the road. You've taken Foxborough, which is a top 5 NFL road atmosphere, especially with a rookie quarterback. And you've moved that to a 48,000-seat stadium 9 time zones away.
Yeah.
So that is a win. You don't play in Arrowhead. You don't play in Seattle. You don't play in the Superdome.
You got to play in the jungle.
Pittsburgh. You do play in the jungle with that fight song. You don't play in Lambeau. You don't play in Minneapolis. I mean, I think Buffalo's a good road environment. I mean, yes, you're at Cincinnati, to your point, Eddie, and you're at Baltimore. But outside of that, read off these road atmospheres. Carolina, Atlanta, and the 3 divisional games.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is it's one of the weakest quarterback slates in your own building. Last year, Mahomes, Herbert, and Hurts, all in your own building.
Yeah.
This year, your best quarterback is it Trevor Lawrence Week 1?
That is probably correct.
Is it a resurrected Matthew Stafford?
If he's playing. Or Deshaun Watson.
Watson, Derek Carr. again, it's not like the slam dunk MVP type QBs that you had last year with Mahomes, of course, and then I think Hurts clearly could have won it had he not gotten hurt, and Herbert I think is better than any of the QBs you would see this season. It is interesting to note just one home game in November. You do have the Frankfurt game, and you've got the bye week after that. But yeah, overall, it's just a really tame schedule. Like, what's the hardest stretch, Eddie? Well, what's the hardest 3 to 4 game stretch?
I'd probably say to start the year.
Okay, I could see that. So go ahead and read that off.
Jacksonville home, at Houston, at Baltimore, home versus the Rams.
I was going to go that early December, at Titans, at Bengals, and then Steelers at home.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of like a stigma with what the Steelers are. But yeah, I think it's a really, really tame schedule.
It's the 4th easiest schedule.
Right. Based off last year's records, again, the only 2 teams that you face that had a double-digit win season last year, the 2 road games of Cincinnati and Baltimore. I've also looked at it and thought to myself, Eddie, it's got an interesting, young QB, rookie QB flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible you face 5 rookie quarterbacks. I should say 5 games against rookie quarterbacks. It's possible you will have 7 games against rookie or second-year QBs. Think about that. 7 of your 17 games against that age group, if you want to label it like that. So if you look at the schedule, week 2, C.J. Stroud. We'll see about week 5 with Will Levis. And then the rest of your young QBs are in the second half of the season. So you would think the rookies would definitely be playing by that point. Bryce Young in week 9, Will Levis in 13, and then you have the back-to-back second-year guys in Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder, 15 and 16, and then close out the year with C.J. Stroud again.
I thought a big takeaway for me personally was being able to start the year at home and bookend the season at home too.
Yeah, divisional to start, divisional to end it.
Mm-hmm.
Second year in a row. Colts, Texans to end the year. Will they be playing for the number 1 pick again? Or I shouldn't say the number 1 pick. I guess in Houston's case they were. Although Houston will not be having the number 1 pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is Arizona going to draft 1 and 2?
Oh, man, I have no idea.
Do you imagine?
Do you think Houston will be that bad again?
I don't know.
I feel like it's hard for them to be that bad with how light their schedule is going to be as well, because they play the same opponents as the Colts.
Yeah.
Other than Baltimore and no, they play Baltimore. Other than Vegas.
Yeah,
New England.
And then, New England and Vegas based off the divisional alignment. And then they won't play the Rams. They'll play whoever finished. They'll play Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Last in the NFC West. Okay, anything else schedule related? Again, overall, I think it's a really, really tame.
Frankfurt, Germany?
Yeah, let's talk Frankfurt. Well, we had a caller call into our show early Thursday morning when this was announced. Thursday or Wednesday, I forget which day it was announced. And lived in Frankfurt for 7 years and said it's compared to, this is the 2 cities that he said it compared to. New York City with Calgary weather.
Interesting.
If you look at like weather, November weather in Frankfurt, Germany, it does look like Foxborough, which just sounds like hell. So it's going to be cold, and it's potentially going to be overcast and potentially going to have some precipitation in the forecast. I'm such a big fan of the international games. I think it's awesome. Particularly if you're a Colts fan, you don't have to play in Foxborough. And your team gets like a standalone. It's a 9:30-ish game. It's something different. And I think from an energy standpoint, for those that will go over there, it will be the second ever NFL game in Frankfurt. The first one will be the previous week, Dolphins-Chiefs. I think you'll have like new energy and the excitement that's just naturally there based off the NFL is not typically in this market. Last year they were in Munich. They weren't even in Frankfurt. And for those unfamiliar with Germany geography, Munich is like 4 hours away from Frankfurt, so it's not like they're very close. I was fortunate to go to the game in London in 2016. At that point, Eddie, the NFL had been in London and played all their games at Wembley for about a decade. But yet I still found like just authentic energy. The Fan Fest event was awesome on Regent Street on Friday. It was really cool. I enjoyed the experience big time. Wembley was a awesome stadium. This stadium is not that. It's 48,000, which is very small for NFL standards. I mean, hell, it's small for a lot of college football standards. You do, I guess, miss out on Oktoberfest a little bit if you're trying to venture over there. But I've been talking with some people that either have lived in Frankfurt or have actually been trading texts. And I know, Eddie, Reese Horn, who played at the University of Indianapolis, great player, actually had a cup of coffee.
With Miami.
I was going to say Miami, Cincinnati, I think last year, maybe briefly Tennessee. He's had a couple of different
practice squad stops, yeah.
Yeah, or tryout stuff.
Played in, I think he played in the XFL, too.
Played in the XFL, and he plays for Frankfurt now. And so just texting with him and said, loves the city. So there's a good amount of Americans. There's a couple Army bases, I think about an hour outside. So he feels like it's kind of a melting pot. And compared it a little bit more to like Indy affordability, but a Chicago feel in just a little bit of the different pockets of the city. It's not the biggest city in the world. I would guess, obviously there's going to be a good amount of Patriots fans. Duh. I mean, the Patriots have been the gold standard of the NFL for the past 2 decades. Naturally, you're going to have people gravitate towards the Patriots. I also would think there'd be a good amount of Colts fans, Eddie, for a couple of reasons. Bjorn Werner would be one. 2 would be, Oliver Luck used to be the GM of the Frankfurt Galaxy. Andrew Luck's favorite player growing up was like the Frankfurt Galaxy star wideout. So I think when Luck got drafted and/or dating back to the Oliver Luck days, you would have some of that World League presence over there. Maybe on next week, we had Werner. We had Bernard Ryman.
Bernie. On
our show. He was awesome, just so genuine. We could maybe throw that interview into the podcast, but he grew up, he said, about 8 hours from Frankfurt. So he's really looking forward to having his family over there. His dad came over for the Washington game last year, but with COVID and just how expensive it is, his parents haven't seen him play since he said he played for the Vienna Vikings in the Austrian national championship years ago. He was a wideout, he said back then.
So I was about to say like 150 pounds ago or something like that?
It probably is, with him gaining another 15 or so. Side note, I think you can make a strong case Bernard Ryman's the most important Colt this season.
That'll be interesting when we get to that here in a couple of weeks before the season starts on who are the most indispensable Colts. Like, that's the list you make, right? That's the phrasing you use.
And I think Ryman could be really, really high on that list. But yeah, you're taking the hardest road atmosphere and you're removing it from the schedule, and you play a neutral site game at 9:30 in the morning, and it's not a home game. I understand it's a 48,000-seat stadium, and coming by tickets is going to be much more difficult than it was for Wembley. If I remember correctly, with Wembley, the Colts got 1,000 tickets to use, and then they could sell 1,000 to their fan base. It sounds like that number is going to be very, very small this time around. So that is a bit of a bummer.
So Jim Irsay's not going to be able to give away as much this year?
I don't think to the magnitude that maybe. He'll certainly be giving away things. And you know what? He'll probably have a concert over there, knowing him.
Oh, that'd be cool.
But yeah, I'm a fan of it. Dolphins-Chiefs, that's pretty darn good the week prior for them, by the way.
I know. It's a good matinee.
Really good one. We had a listener to our morning show mention that the reason why he felt like the NFL was in Frankfurt is the financial district of Europe. So they were in Munich last year.
Yeah.
And that stadium was much bigger than this 48,000er. But this person's thought was, they are there more for corporate reasons. Try to tap into some of the businesses, which totally makes sense. Would get why the NFL would want to do that. And some people believe that, like, Germany has a little bit more of like growth potential with fan bases than London. Obviously soccer's big everywhere.
Yeah.
But you have a little bit more of curiosity about American football. I think the World League's been a little bit bigger in that part of the country. Obviously, a storyline to see is when will the Colts leave for Frankfurt. They play at Carolina the week prior. I don't want to act like the Carolina, I don't know, maybe the Carolina-Frankfurt flight is much, much closer. I can't imagine it'd be more than like an hour, if that. Carolina's obviously much further south than Indianapolis would be. Gus Bradley's been overseas a lot from his Jacksonville days, so I just curious more than anything. Just asked him last week, hey, what did you prefer? Because I think teams have done two things, Eddie. They've either gone over Thursday night for the Sunday international game, or they leave right after their previous game on Sunday. The Colts went over Thursday night back in 2016. Your boy did not listen to the stay up all day Friday.
Oh, no.
I napped when I got to the hotel early Friday morning, and boy, was I fighting jet lag all day then Friday once I woke up. So the thought process is you sleep on the plane Thursday night,
Yep.
6-hour flight, whatever it is. I just can't sleep on planes, man.
Did you get to ride with the team? Because were you still with them at that time?
Yeah. Big old plane. Was it Virgin Airlines?
Did Drake make it?
That's a good question. I don't know if Drake the Dog. I would assume Coach Irsay was on a different plane. I would guess Drake the Dog. I don't know if Drake the Dog was around then. He might have. I don't know if I don't know Drake's parents or when they might have created young Drake, but that's a good question. But you have teams that go over Sunday. Now Gus Bradley said, "I prefer the Thursday." That's kind of so. It's two schools of thought. One, do you want to get the jet lag out of the way early in the week, but then you're over there all week? Or do you want to get through your Wednesday, Thursday days, which are your biggest practice days? Friday's kind of a walkthrough, a little bit more speedy than a walkthrough. But basically, from a physical standpoint, you'd have everything done. And you just got to get adjusted to what it's like over there. But the biggest thing is you just got to sleep on that flight, which makes for a little bit of an earlier bedtime. I think we left Indy around 6-ish on that Thursday evening there. So anything else, man? I mean, what, Thursday, or I was going to say your furthest trip stateside is what, Houston?
Yeah.
Nothing in the Mountain Time Zone? Nothing in the Western Time Zone?
No.
Pacific Time Zone, I should call it.
I don't see anything even in Central Time.
Houston Central.
Oh, that's right. Duh.
Technically, Tennessee is, right? Nashville?
Are they?
Yeah, because you always lose an hour coming home, and that drive's just miserable to begin with.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
But no Atlanta, no Carolina, of course. Jacksonville is Eastern. So, Baltimore and Cincy. Anything else Frankfurt related, schedule related?
They don't have a time announced yet for Pittsburgh in Week 15 or Houston in Week 18.
Yeah, those are the TBDers on that one there. So
maybe there's a primetime game.
I had this last year, and this is more for our Indiana University fans. But the Colts will play. Is it the Bucks, Eddie? That's the Sunday of Thanksgiving. Colts Bucks.
Yep, right after the bye week.
Typically, always play that Sunday at home of Thanksgiving week. They always play that Sunday game at home. IU plays, I believe, over at Gainbridge Fieldhouse against Harvard that evening. Last year, IU played Miami, Ohio. That was like a few hours after the Colts played the Eagles. So if you're an Indiana University basketball fan, you're looking to make a day of it downtown, Colts Bucks, and then slide over to watch IU play Harvard.
All right, now that we've broken down the schedule, time to get into the rookie wide receiver conversation with Josh Downs. He joined you guys on Kevin and Query about 10 days ago.
He did. This is Josh Downs. Again, just to remind everybody, our morning show, Kevin and Query, Friday morning of rookie minicamp. The number 3rd round pick, I should say, the number 79 overall pick, Josh Downs. Josh, I know it's been brief. How's Indy treating you so far?
Yes, sir. Good to be here. Got off the plane yesterday. Felt good to get back in Indianapolis since the combine, but I'm glad to be here.
All right, let's go back a week ago Friday. You're getting ready for round 2 and round 3. Judging by your reaction, I think you probably thought you'd be drafted a little bit earlier. But then your emotion once you got that call from the Colts. Chris Ballard called it one of the best draft calls he's ever received. How would you describe your feelings round 2 into round 3, and then once you got that call?
Yeah, so I was a little upset that I didn't go earlier. So, yeah, it was a lot of emotion early in the night. Thought I was going to go earlier from talks, like, just through the whole pre-draft. But when I got the call, I just felt blessed. I felt ecstatic. I was very happy. And I knew that I had a great organization that believed in me. So, really, I was ready to put it all on the line for them right then and there. And I'm ready to go to work today, and however many years I'm here.
Josh, a guy that will be coaching you, Reggie Wayne, is very high on you. I mean, he made no bones about that. I think he's a guy that probably pushed heavily for your draft. But Reggie Wayne, when he came out of the process, has talked about how Washington had told him, we're taking you. And then Washington comes up, and I can't remember, it was a receiver out of Clemson they took, and they passed on Reggie Wayne. I don't think he ever forgot that. Did you have teams that had told you or given you expectation that you would go before where you did?
I mean, yeah, like with my agent telling me stuff that he heard from teams, and then just talking to teams in the process. I just felt like I was going to be picked before a lot of the other guys that went before me. So same type of vibe, and we talked about that already. So he went through a similar situation. He said he was, I think he was the 5th or 6th one taken, and I was like 11th or 12th. So definitely similar situation, coming in with a chip on the shoulder. So no team owes to pick me, but I feel like I was better than a lot of guys they picked, so I'm just going to have to show them.
I think you can do both of what I'm about to mention. But Josh Downs, for you personally, which play call gets you more juiced or makes you more confident? A long ball trying to get behind a defense and utilizing your speed, or utilizing your hands on a 3rd and 8 over the middle, need and grind out to extended drive play?
I like both, but I feel like when it's 3rd down and 8, 4th down and 8, and the coach is calling your number, I feel like that speaks volumes. I feel like they're putting trust in you to get a 4th or 3rd down, because that's the difference between a turnover on downs or a punt. So I feel like when a coach puts his faith in you to get that 1st down for the team, I take pride in that, and I feel like I got to get open for my team. I got to make this catch, and I got to keep the drive going. But I always love the home run ball too, so.
Yeah, you bring up a 4th down play. As a Notre Dame fan, I seem to recall a big touchdown you had on a 4th down this past fall against the Irish. Josh Downs, 3rd-round pick of the Colts. He joins us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. I want to go back to Reggie Wayne, if you don't mind, and just what that interaction was like at the Combine with him. What do you remember about what Reggie was saying to you on the field during your positional work?
Yeah, I remember, TJ Huzmanzada, I was working with him during pre-draft, and he knows Reggie Wayne too, because he's a great receiver as well. So he was just talking to him, telling me that he thinks you're a real good player. And then I remember after the on-field session, TJ Huzmanzada went up to Coach Reggie Wayne and was like, "Who's the best receiver out there?" And he pointed at me and said, "No question." So after that, I did my pro day, and then Coach Wayne wanted to have a Zoom with me, and he told me he needed me on his squad. So from then on out, I knew he believed in me. So when I got that call from Coach Mr. Ballard, I knew it was time to go, because Coach Reggie Wayne stood on that table for me. He vouched for me, so now it's time to make him right.
Now, obviously, Michael Pittman is the wearer of number 11 here in Indianapolis. Have you given thought to a jersey number here at the next level?
Yeah, I'm gonna wear number 1.
Ooh. Any reason behind that? I guess the similarity between 11 and 1, maybe?
Well, I was gonna switch my number going into my junior year, and I was thinking like 1 or 7, but then I just stuck with 11. So when I saw that 1 was available, because Paris Campbell left, I jumped right on it, and I said I'll be number 1. So I feel like that's an honor. It's a big opportunity, and I had to take it.
You know, one of the things I would think, Josh, that would be a challenge going from college to the NFL is simply separation, right? I mean, the window is so much shorter at the professional level, and I would imagine that some of that can be made up by the precision of route running. How does one go about becoming a precise route runner, other than the obvious answer, which is just repetition? But what is it? What separates Jerry Rice from another receiver in making one an elite route runner?
Yeah. So I'll just say, first, you just got to have a lot of God-given talent, of course, but then also, like you said, repetition, and then just taking details that you see on film and bringing it to the field, and then also just working on your breaks each and every day, working on different movements, inside routes, hesitations, stutters, just things to throw off the DB, and then really just crafting. So route running it's your job as a receiver besides catching the ball. So really there's the one thing that should be on your mind when you're running the route is get open, unless you're a decoy, and then it's get your teammate open. But I feel like route running is just it's a natural thing, and also just something you got to craft at each and every day to get better at. And, yeah.
You know, when I was in St. Louis, Josh Downs is our guest, by the way, the Colts rookie wide receiver out of North Carolina. When I worked in St. Louis many moons ago, this shows, Josh, that I'm old. I covered your uncle, Dre Bly, who was a really good corner out of North Carolina and had a good, long career in the NFL. two things I remember about him. Number one, I've never seen him other than on a field wear shoes. He wore slides every single day, like constantly. So I don't even know if he owns shoes. But once he put the cleats on, he was a really good lockdown corner. And I'm curious, not knowing how close your relationship is with him, but having a father that played in the league, having an uncle that was a defensive guy in the league, does that give you opportunity to talk to, in particular, your uncle about what the vantage point is from a corner and what they are expecting out of you as a receiver that gives you advantage then to be able to get into the mind of the defender?
Yeah, so, my uncle, I've known him since before I was born, so me and him are very close. He's really related to me, too. People always have that question, are y'all actually related? Like, yeah, he's actually my real uncle. But I'd say, helping me be a better receiver because he tells me the tells that DBs look for, that he looked for, like raising your pads or slowing down a little bit. And basically he just tells me stuff he sees in my routes, what I need to keep doing, keeping my pads low. Keep the same speed a lot of the times. Hesitations are good at times, but sometimes you just got to go. Having him, it's definitely helped me a lot just to kind of feel what a DB thinks because he was an all-pro corner. He went to the Pro Bowl, so there's not really much more you can do besides get a gold jacket. So having him in my corner has definitely helped me on the college level. He's corrected me a lot. He's told me I was a good player, but he's always there to tell me what I can do to get better. So having him and my father helps me a lot because they've been there and done it, and they've seen greats do it.
Josh Downs wearing number 1 for the Colts, rookie minicamp, first practice coming up a little bit later today. Josh, what do you know, or what did you know about Anthony Richardson, and what's been your first interaction with him like?
I knew Anthony Richardson was a crazy athletic freak with a crazy arm. So when I got drafted by the Colts, he texted me right away, and he said he was ready to get to work. So, last night we went out in the parking lot. We just threw some, just chopped it up for about 30 minutes, caught some balls from him, just got a feel of how his arm is. He got a real strong arm, type spiral. So I'm excited to get out there on the field with him tomorrow. I know he's a real hard worker, similar to me, and I feel like we're going to make a good connection.
Now, several people have said that your nickname, and maybe this was in college, Josh First Downs. I mean, that seems obvious. I kind of like Josh Third Downs because I like receivers that are third down where you know that, like we talked about, on a 3rd and 8, you're like, we're good because we got Josh Downs, right? So if you had your pick, would you rather be Josh First Downs or Josh Third Downs?
I'll leave that up to the fans, I guess, and y'all. I don't really have a preference, so I ain't never thought about the third downs thing. But I
guess if you make a catch on 3rd down, you're creating first downs, so that would lead to that, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By the way, what happened to North Carolina basketball last year? What was going on there?
Jeez.
Do we know?
See, I don't really know. I mean, I don't really know too much about that. I watched them, but I guess it was just a down year. Everybody has those times, but I got some friends on that team, so I can't say anything bad about that.
Look, Carolina basketball's, they're great, right? I just, around here, I think people can relate to it because Indiana kind of had the same thing, and then Purdue in the tournament. So, you know that you're coming to a place that has a reverence for college basketball like Carolina, but then the Colts have kind of taken that torch, right? So there's a lot of expectation there. Do you feel that pressure when you come in?
No, not really. I mean, I just feel like I just got to go to work, be the best player I can be, and then just do whatever I'm meant to do. Don't feel much pressure at all. I mean, I feel like I'm going to put in the work every single day, and then it's going to take care of itself.
Josh, last one. Last Friday, I remember I asked you about T.Y. Hilton on the Zoom. Obviously, just the connections there based off the franchise and size. Anybody you try to pattern your game after, or anybody you really try to lock in, watch film of?
I used to watch a lot of like Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry when they was at LSU, and then even when they was earlier in their careers, and then watch a lot of Devontae Adams. I love how he plays, and then I've watched T.Y. Hilton, of course, too, and then Cooper Kupp. Just really a lot of the greats, just to see what they do, see if it's similar to what I do, and then try to implement stuff from their game to mine.
Josh, one last one for me. I'm fascinated by this because in life in general, very few people can relate to being a professional athlete. I mean, you're in the top half a percentile, right? But we all have jobs. We all have things that we do. We all have levels in life where we move from one area to the next. And privately, we have our fears and our insecurities when we do that. And we assume that athletes do not. Can you take me through one area that you are a little bit, I'm not going to say intimidated. I know the easy answer is no, I'm not. I'm confident. That's why I'm here. I get that. But is there one area that you look at it and it seems surreal to you? Or one area where there is a natural discomfort that you are looking forward to feeling comfortable about and overcoming?
Yeah, I would just say, just joining a new team. Being a professional athlete. Of course, that's scary to a lot of people, and a lot of people don't get that. But yeah, everybody thinks it's a dream, and it is. But at the same time, it's a lot of expectations, and you got to handle that. You got to put in the work, and you got to go out there and perform. So I'd say just being a professional, being on a new team, moving to Indiana. It's a lot on my plate, but I'm glad for it. I love uncomfortable situations, so I feel like you grow in those situations. So get to mature here, get to grow here, get to learn from a Hall of Fame receiver, a great receiver, and just be a better player. So I'm excited.
His quarterback rocking number 5, himself rocking number 1 yesterday out on the parking lot at West 56th Street. Today it'll be on their practice field for the first time in an NFL setting. Josh Downs with us. Josh, great stuff, man. Welcome to Indy. Good luck, and we'll be rooting for you.
Yes, sir. I appreciate y'all. You have a good day.
Eddie, how many catches for Josh Downs this year? 17 games.
I'll go with 60, 70, in that range.
That's a big number for a rookie.
I just think there's a big way for him to impact right away.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It is funny, when you mention 60, 70 catches, what does that break down to? 4 a game? I mean, when you think about 4 a game, how doable does that sound?
3.5 a game, yeah.
You need Josh Downs to catch 1 ball every quarter. Like that sounds just very, very manageable and doable with that. A lot of reasons to like Downs. And again, watch him at that rookie minicamp practice. There is just such a natural feel to how he plays the game. He's a step ahead of everybody. And as he should have been at the rookie minicamp, to be fair, he's easily the most accomplished. Frankly, he's the most accomplished draft pick. Nobody is on his level. I mean, even Juju Brents or Anthony Richardson certainly not. From a pure college production standpoint, Downs tops the list. But, Eddie, his strength is arguably Richardson's biggest weakness. Those shorter intermediate throws.
And if you look at who they drafted and like Will Mallory and him, those kind of players are probably to help Richardson in that short to intermediate passing game.
Yeah, and I think Downs could have a pretty long career, helping his guy out in those moments, or I guess in that part of the field. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Should we get into Twitter questions?
Well, how many catches do you think you have Josh Downs at? And don't copy me now.
I know. So 17 times 3 is 51.
Yep.
17 times 4 is 68. So right in there would be a nice sweet spot.
I like your IU degree working over there.
Yeah, thank you. 61.
Oh, you went specific, huh?
61.
I went the
61
range.
Catches for him. But again, when you talk about it on a per game, per quarter basis, you can really talk pretty highly. The number can get high. Obviously, his durability and all of those things will matter, but caught a lot of balls in 2 years at North Carolina. Mainly 2 years of playing, I should say. And I would think punt returner help. We'll see how that divides up with Isaiah McKenzie and him, but certainly something where he can help you out.
Ready for Twitter questions now?
Let's do it.
Jason is up first. Looking back and yet knowing that the Colts would land Anthony Richardson, would you have made the deal to go to number 1 with a similar package as Carolina to get Bryce Young, or stayed at 4 and take Anthony Richardson?
Interesting. I was always kind of team Bryce. Obviously, to Jason's point, it wouldn't have cost the same as moving from 4 to 1 as it would 9 to 1. And Carolina had that additional second from the Christian McCaffrey trade, which I always felt like kind of gave them more of a buffer to be like, because they sent them San Francisco's second, right? Carolina kept their own second.
Yes.
So they still had a high second rounder, which obviously really, really helps them out from a softening the blow standpoint. I know Irsay said that they would have taken Richardson 1. I don't know if I believe him, to be honest with you.
I know, because, he said that Alabama kid looks pretty good.
Yeah, and again, I think it's more than just, Irsay that I think there's a lot of people that like Bryce Young.
Yes.
Within that organization there. So what that exact trade package from 4-1 would have looked like, a future first and your second. So basically you'd be looking at no Juju Brents and no first round pick next year. When you put it in those terms, I guarantee you if you did a poll of this to Colts fans, I would say the overwhelming majority would rather have Richardson, Brents, and the first rounder next year.
I would agree.
I don't know if I'm not in that stamp at 1,000%. I'm in that pool. I know there's reasons to be skeptical on my side of it, so I fully get that. I really like Bryce Young, really like him, and you can look at it probably one of two ways, Eddie. The Darius Leonard trade always turned into, look at what the Colts got for Leonard. It was the 5 things and moving back from 3 to 6.
Yeah.
And what they got with all those guys. And then you have reverses of it, like, look at what Buffalo paid to get Josh Allen. Well, no one gives a shit. They got Josh Allen. And same thing with Kansas City, going from 27 to 10. And obviously, if you're Arizona and you took Josh Rosen 3 picks after Josh Allen, that stings a whole lot on you.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're obviously Colts fans in this situation, you hope that Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young is not Josh Rosen, Josh Allen.
Yeah, and Chicago trading up to draft Mitchell Trubisky and passing on Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Back to the schedule. This is from Jeremy. Which game would the Colts have had the highest chance of being flexed into a primetime game? My guess is the Colts and the Bengals.
I would think that was my first. Now, the only question I had was, do we still have the rule about how many primetime games you can have?
6.
And I assume the Bengals have got to be close to already having
5.
Yeah, so that would be a question.
I think it's 5, maybe 4. It might be 4.
I mean, I am totally reaching for the moon here, okay? What if the Atlanta Falcons are in an NFC South position late in the year, and the Colts are in an AFC South position late in the year? Again, very unlikely, but that was one that I had. I don't know if Kenny Pickett would be a draw late in the year for them to be flexed, but yes, Jeremy, I would say Bengals, but yeah, I'm not holding my breath on any of them. Because it's one of those things, Eddie, you get so in tune to your own schedule and flexing games, you forget to look at the other games that week, and there's usually quite a lot that.
And if you had to flex the game out from that night, it would be New England at Denver.
Well, I mean, I probably would not have either of those teams as playoff teams right now, but.
Because that's Christmas weekend. Or I can't even really say weekend because Christmas is on Monday, so they have the 3 games.
Colts play the Falcons on Christmas Eve, right?
Yes.
Which is a Sunday?
Yes.
Yeah.
My only hesitancy with Cincinnati is the expectation for the Colts is to not be good, and Cincinnati's expectation is to be really good. So I don't know if they would feel like it would be a fun matchup for one particular side of this, considering the dominance of the Bengals at home.
Yeah.
Underneath Joe Burrow.
That is a good point.
Tyler's Twitter question is next. What percentage chance would you put on Anthony Richardson starting week 1? Some may say we would damage his potential by putting him in too early, but I really feel like he needs exposure even if his first season has more lows than highs. Also, congratulations on episode 400. Looking forward to 100 more.
Look at that. Thank you for that. Can you imagine 100 more?
Sometimes I can't even imagine one more.
Well, was that a shot at me?
No, it was a shot at me.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of impossible for me to give a confident answer right now. I'd probably lean 60-40 that he does. And again, some might say, he damages his potential by putting him out there too early. I really feel he needs the exposure. We're in this market, so again, Eddie, it's easy for us to make the Pacers comparisons, but just look at where you are at right now with the Indiana Pacers. For me, if you are a Colts fan and you want to check boxes for this coming season, I guess let's just start with the Pacers and the boxes that they checked. The young guys developed. Check. They lost more than they won, which means they have a top 10 pick. We'll see how high it is tomorrow night with the lottery. Check. They still have some future assets. I mean, they've got 4 picks potentially in the top 35 this year. They just had one of their worst records. And you know what? In this market, the Pacers have not given their fan base enough benefit of the doubt over the last 20 years just because you still have some people. It's not an overwhelming amount at all, and I disagree with some of this. But you do have some people that are like, I hate the brawl. Or, oh, the Pacers will get good and their stars will just leave. Or you just have people that aren't as big NBA fans as they are NFL fans. So the Pacers have those things going against them. Yet, Eddie, if you talk to any Pacer fan, or really any sports fan in this market over the last month, 2 months, I cannot tell you how overwhelmingly consistent the praise is for this past season when they won 35 games, which by Pacer standards is one of the worst seasons this franchise has had in 10 to 12 years.
Yeah.
So I think if you are the Colts, the best case scenario is to develop Richardson, get him out there as much as possible, but still be drafted in the top 5 or top 10.
Yeah.
I mean, that I know that is a short-sighted view to it, but you've got to continue to add to this young core and build around Richardson. You know, the 2 quarterbacks you hear compared to Anthony Richardson the most, and part of this is a little Shane Steichen background, but to me, Eddie, it's Josh Allen and it's Jalen Hurts. You didn't see Josh Allen truly take off until Stephon Diggs.
Yep.
And you didn't see Jalen Hurts ascend to the MVP level until A.J. Brown.
Yep.
So you've got to, I think, keep that in mind as a Colts fan of like, yeah, it'd be great to try and win, but that's not going to get you to the end goal. Again, to me, the end goal as a fan base in the NFL is, can you create, and I know a decade's a long time, so let's maybe trim it to 6 to 8 years. Can you create a 6 to 8 year run of annual trips to the postseason, some divisional wins, potentially a bye? Can you do that? In 8 years, can you do that? Can you make the playoffs 6 times? Can you win the division 2 out of those 6, 3 out of those 6, maybe be the 1 seed 1 of those 6? And as we know, in the NFL, just get in the dance and see what happens.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, the best opportunity to do that, you still need another pretty high pick next year. And you need a hit on that high pick as well. I know I've gotten into it before, but just look at the post-Manning drafts after they took Peyton. Edge in 99, Wayne in 2000, Freeney in 01, versus the post-Luck drafts. I don't think the Bjorn Werner, Philip Dorsett, who was the first pick in 14, Mewhort,
Yeah.
don't really roll off the tongue.
No.
In the same manner. Granted, different spots of the draft, certainly, but they didn't even make it to second contracts here in Indy of substantial lengths at all. So that's how I view this season.
I think the interesting thing when you think about the wide receiver portion of this and how you mentioned Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs and Jalen Hurts got A.J. Brown is that neither of those teams had a player that was coming off of their rookie contract in the situation that the Colts currently are with Michael Pittman Jr., because they're going to have to pay him. And in order to get one of those top receivers, you're going to have to pay him as well. So the aspect of Chris Ballard paying top 15, 20 wide receiver money to not one but 2 guys, I think could be a little challenging.
It's a really good point, and I guess and I should have been clear on this, but some of where my thinking is another top 10 pick, and you're literally getting Marvin Harrison Jr. and/or, in all likelihood, there will be some wideout that comes out next year, not named Marvin Harrison Jr., that's worthy of a top 10 pick.
Yep.
So that would be the route to where then that guy's on the rookie deal. So then you are paying Pittman in a beautiful manner. You would have some point where it's Pittman, Pierce, Downs, and then that rookie wideout, and paying all of them is going to be a question. That would be a dream. You'd fall into a Cincinnati Bengals sort of scenario where they're at with that trio right now. We're obviously a long ways away from that, but I think that's the goal. So I guess to get back to what I was saying earlier, I don't know if you are in a position to necessarily trade for that type of guy. We'll see how the finances work out. But drafting one and growing with Richardson would, I think, be ideal.
Colton says he's super excited that the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson But he says, to be honest, I'm kind of mad we didn't trade up to get him. What are the odds Houston trades back up to number 3? I think we got very lucky, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think there was a lot of luck involved in the draft. I also want to credit Chris Ballard because I assume he had some sort of intel on this. I mean, we all watch the emotions on the With the Next Pick series. I mean, he's nervous, as he should be, because you never truly know. But I don't know if he told Arizona, like, if a team is coming up for a quarterback, call us. Now, if you're Arizona, wouldn't you just lie and say a team's coming up for a
Ricky GM?
Yeah, I don't know how that process necessarily works, but I am torn on that a little bit, Colton, of like, man, if you really liked him, wouldn't you have traded up? But again, maybe you had this intel with that. Because by all accounts, I mean, Seattle was a team that really wanted him. Tennessee was a team that really wanted Richardson. Like, I don't think Anthony Richardson, let's say the Colts traded back to where Arizona was. Arizona was at, I guess it would have been Arizona trading up. I mean, any team that, where would you have taken Levis, I guess is the question. Would you have waited until 35? Which you traded back from 35 to 44 to take Brents.
Wasn't he taken before 35, though? He was taken at like 33, right? 34?
Did Tennessee come up and get him before Brents?
I thought so.
I thought for some reason Tennessee got him in between where the Colts traded back initially.
I could be wrong there.
I'm trying to look it up right now. 33. Yeah. Good call. So was that the second pick of the second round?
Yes, because it was Porter. And then I think it was Tennessee trading up to get
I forget if that
Will.
Miami forfeited blood into the second round. So it's such a great question. I mean, I know Irsay said that we would have taken Levis at 4. I don't believe that more when I see it, sort of thing.
This question is from YouTube. I don't know if that's the actual name or if you got it from YouTube.
I think one of the commenters in YouTube, which we love our audience over there.
I know. We got quite a bit. Congratulations, by the way. So thank you to everyone. I know Kevin appreciates it.
Yes, our 400th episode, as we echoed last week. Draft-related content typically does well, but thank you to everybody that will continue to listen throughout the offseason. And as always, we are open to storylines. So if you guys want to, topic ideas, anything to throw in there, particularly in the months of June and July, we try to keep it fresh, but always a good time to get into some of that stuff.
Now that Frank is gone, are Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay haunted by not drafting Jalen Hurts and therefore hoping to grab a bigger, more athletic version of Jalen in AR5 to be the Colts franchise quarterback? Could this also be the real explanation why Shane Steichen was hired? Another level deeper, if Anthony Richardson fails, any chance we get Arch Manning?
Oh, Arch. Is he going to redshirt?
I don't know. Like, he did not look good in their spring game.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers' time, and then the other guy looked pretty good, right?
The other freshman, I forget his name.
Yeah, good old Arch. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just can't entertain Arch questions till I see him on a NFL or on a college football field before we go there.
Agreed.
You know, they hired Shane Steichen for 2 reasons. One, his quarterback background is what it is. We've talked about that. Rivers, in particular Herbert and Hurts. They also hired Shane Steichen because of their own quarterback issue. I mean, it's twofold. It's like you're looking to marry someone, and the previous person that you're married to is the worst communicator of all time. And the person that you're about to marry is the greatest communicator, one of the greatest communicators of all time. So I know it's a little bit of hyperbole to call Shane Steichen that with quarterbacks, but the Colts' biggest flaw, they went out there on the market and they found someone that had a resume that is the opposite of their biggest flaw. So I think that just kind of perfect marriage. Jim Irsay has said that, and it was the reason why you hire an offensive-minded head coach, because you feel good about that guy obviously being here for a long, long time. And, credit to Shane Steichen, because I think he took it a step further with the coaching staff of, Cam Turner having this experience with Cam Newton and Kyler Murray and a couple of guys from the Giants coaching staff and what they have done from an offensive mindset. Jim Bob Cooter, working with Trevor Lawrence last season. Tom Manning, the tight end coach, comes from the college background, and he was the OC. I think we forget this. He was the OC for Brock Purdy. Obviously, Purdy's had some early success as well. So I think for all those reasons, that's why the Shane Steichen was higher, and Steichen himself has done a nice job of making sure the trickle down within the offensive staff has some of that background as well.
I like your PBR hat, by the way.
Thank you. A listener sent this, Kansas City Steve. I know our audience can't see it, but I wore it on the morning show today. So I love the label.
Yeah.
Nice crisp look to it. I didn't realize 1844.
I want that hat that Chris Ballard was wearing and with the next pick.
Yeah, Ballard has got some good wardrobe action.
It's got like it's like a badge and it says IND and each letter, and then in the fourth quadrant, the bottom right of the badge, it's a Colts logo. I thought it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a cool logo. We just got word that Rosie bit one of her friends at daycare. Should I look at that as potentially that's a good thing to show that she'll be aggressive on a sporting field? Or is that too macho dad-like of me?
You need to do some investigative work to figure out all sides here. Was she at fault or,
The note reads, Rosie and a friend were fighting over a toy and Rosie bit her friend. We reminded her that teeth are not for biting. Probably just to clarify, biting other people. I mean, they are for biting.
Yeah.
Tyson, unlike Tyson there. Rosie's not a biter. That's a bit surprising.
She must have been incredibly frustrated.
Maddie did say she slept in a lot this morning, so maybe it's a little bit tired there. That's a hell of a way to start the week. Quite the way to end the school year. Yeah, you're not going to sign my yearbook this year.
Jake's Twitter question is next. Is it crazy to feel like the veteran guys have a new energy because of the Anthony Richardson pick?
I think that
energy or rejuvenation, I should say.
There is, without question, energy and rejuvenation within that locker room. Without question. Eddie, Colts fans have felt it. We have talked about it endlessly on this podcast.
Si, senor.
Imagine, though, working for the company and feeling it. They have been a part of it. I mean, it's their professional lives. It's largely how people associate them. Fairly or unfairly, it's just the nature of playing such a professional public sport like that. So, yeah, I mean, we're not talking about stupid individuals here. I mean, they know full well what it means. They know how much that position gets paid. Yes, they get it. And whether they admit it or not, and frankly, I think a lot of them have admitted that. They obviously probably aren't going to be totally filled with truth serum when those questions come. But even when those questions have happened this offseason, they have mentioned that yeah, we need to stop the revolving door. It's nice to potentially have some stability here of, oh yeah, that's a quarterback that can do some multiple things. That is very tough for us to defend. I mean, think about it this way, Eddie. If they start Minshew week 1, let's just play it out. Richardson then starts 2024 week 1. So from 2016 to 2025, I should say 2024. From 2016 to 2024, you will not have had the same starting quarterback in week 1s in consecutive seasons.
Bonkers.
You had Luck in 15 and 16, so that matched up. But then Luck didn't start in 17, week 1. That was Tolzien.
Yep.
Week 18, Luck came back.
Thanks for that PTSD.
Sorry, I was there. I mean, it was...
You were in the Coliseum?
Utterly unbelievable. I can picture the pick sixes. I feel like there were 9 of them.
And Todd Gurley rushing for 2 or 3 touchdowns?
Todd Gurley. I think it was Sean McVay's first game.
Yeah?
As head coach. So you go, Luck to Tolzien, to Luck, then to Brissett, then to Phil, then to Carson Wentz, then to Matt Ryan, then potentially Minshew and Richardson. It's approaching an NFL record. It is.
Do you know what the record is?
I believe it's 9.
What
9
team?
Straight seasons. It's either the Bears or the Browns.
It's got to be Cleveland.
You didn't have the same starting quarterback in consecutive seasons, which, again, Eddie, all it takes is just, one little breakup of, hey, Derek Anderson was a Pro Bowler last year. He's going to start week 1 the very next year. It doesn't take a long time. And we're talking about week 1 here. You can bench him in week 2. It's got to stop. So, Jake, to your question, it's a terrific one. I honestly think take fans thoughts on this and times it by 100, which might seem really hard for fans.
I really like this next question that we're ending the pod on. This is from Cameron. He would love to know more about David Thornton's role in practically what he does with players. He seems like a big role that never gets the spotlight.
Oh, David Thornton. Family. He's always yelling it. Family, family, family. He is always yelling it. Guys love him. It's a great question. I will be honest, I don't fully know his role, but I would think some of it entails this, or I should say I know some of it entails this, but I'm sure it's much bigger. I would kind of look at it, Eddie, and say, like, he is your liaison to the other parts of the building. I'd say he's your first contact when it comes to asking for resources financially, real estate, family, ticket request.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also a lot of people view him as like the first person that they come to in times of need.
He was there to greet Anthony off the plane, wasn't he, when
He was part of that. I don't know if maybe this just happened based off where, Sam Ellinger happened to be in the building, sadly, when he found out that his brother died. But I think David Thornton was one of the first people that, talked with Sam, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he joined Frank Reich and Chris Ballard at the funeral for that. So I just think he is like that. He's like that dad, for lack of a better term.
or the really cool uncle or something
Really
like that.
cool uncle at times, but again, also a shoulder if you need to cry on, but certainly a good sounding board from, again, financially, community events, those sorts of things. I think he does a little bit of all of that. And they have an operations department that can help you out from a housing standpoint and other things. And but I think Thornton's the guy you come to, and then he kind of points you in a different direction. Okay, go here, those sorts of things.
Kind of like the academic advisor almost.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So very important guy. Really, really, really important guy. I know part of me thought when some of the, Carolina staff turnover was happening, you saw a lot of Colts people going to Carolina. I'm like, boy, Thornton would be one I could see Frank Reich wanting. I think Marcus Pollard, if I'm not mistaken, does it in Jacksonville. I think he's Jacksonville's director of player engagement, I believe is the exact title on it. So, very important dude. And obviously had a nice career here and had a nice NFL career in general. He's a North Carolina guy. I think that's why some of the Carolina thought, if those are curious of why, he potentially would have been mentioned there. Anything else, Eddie?
I don't think so. Go Reds.
Go Reds. Yes, I'm wearing a red shirt today. The 3 or 4 from Miami.
Yes.
Is that right?
Might have been just 2 or 3.
2 or 3, and then a sweep of, who was it earlier in the week?
It was 2 or 3 of the Mets, right?
2 or 3 of the Mets. So nice to win a couple series. It's rare.
Third best record, or I don't know if it's still third, maybe fourth now, but in the last, I think, 3 weeks, they have the third best record in the MLB.
I like it. Momentum. See if we can still be in it by Flag Day. That's the goal. Father's Day, maybe, still be in it by, and then we'll progress. We'll see if we can get to Independence
the fact
Day.
they're still in it on May 15th is quite remarkable.
Yes, something the Oakland Athletics cannot say about that. So looking ahead to next week, again, we'll get into some OTA viewing experiences. So don't look for the Monday morning pod is what I'm getting at. Typically, it's like a Tuesday, Wednesday. It might even be later in the week. I'll have to double check what the schedule is on that front. But
I know we've got a couple interviews as well in the vault that we can pull out. We've got Pat Fitzgerald still.
I forgot about the Fitzgerald one. Should we do Fitzgerald or Ryman next week?
Do we leave it up to the listeners to comment in the YouTube chat?
Sure.
Or in the YouTube section?
Yeah, we either have Pat Fitzgerald on his 2 rookie draft picks of the Colts, or we can go Bernard Ryman.
Adi Tamiwa Adabare and Evan Hull.
Look at you. How beautiful is that? I'm trying to look up the schedule here. So next week is Thursday, May 25th, Eddie. That's the OTA availability.
Oof.
So we want to do late Thursday? Could you do that? Nothing like, scheduling things on the freaking podcast. What do you think? 3 o'clock next week?
Have to be probably about 3:15, yeah.
Okay. All right. Gosh, and then the next week is a Friday? And then a Wednesday? Unbelievable. Riveting radio here to close out the podcast. Everybody have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Kevin's Corner.